It's time for Rabbi Minkowicz's Weekly Torah Lesson, a place where life's most difficult questions are answered. Here with his spiritual perspective and insight, Rabbi Minkowicz.
Welcome to this week's Torah lesson. This week's Torah portion is Parsha Vayetzei. The question of the week is, to what extent do you have to go to keep your word? So, in this week's Torah portion, Parsha Vayetzei, we learn about Yaakov meeting Rachel for the first time, and we know it was love at first sight. He wanted to marry her, she wanted to marry him, and he goes to speak to his future father-in-law, Laban. He says, "Hey, I want to marry your daughter, Rachel." He says, "Sure, with pleasure." And they set the wedding date, and he makes him work for it. They set the wedding date, and Laban, as a good father-in-law, goes ahead and exchanges Rachel that was supposed to marry him, and he ends up marrying Leah. Sure enough, he wakes up the next morning, oh my gosh, his father-in-law cheated him. He comes back and says, "Hey, why'd you cheat me?" He says, "Well, Leah's the oldest. You can't just go ahead and marry the youngest first. So if you want, with pleasure. You work for another 7 years, and you'll have Rachel." And sure enough, Yaakov was a gentleman. He agreed to work for the 7 years, and he goes ahead and marries Rachel. So the Rebbe asks a simple question, we know that the patriarchs kept the whole Torah. Even before it was given, they didn't have an obligation, but they voluntarily kept the whole Torah. And if they kept the whole Torah voluntarily, one of the commandments in the Torah is not to marry two sisters. So how did Yaakov go ahead and marry two sisters? In other words, he married Leah, so either we'd have to get divorced Leah and marry Rachel, or not marry Rachel. But how does he go and marry two sisters? So Rebbe says, very simple. Yaakov took upon himself voluntarily to keep the whole Torah. He didn't have to keep the Torah. That was a beautiful thing he took upon himself. Not an obligation, but that was a voluntarily thing he took on. However, when it comes to keeping your word, you have to keep your word. Because when he even went to Laban, he said, "Laban, how do you not keep your word? You said I was going to marry Rachel." So he had to respond and say a loophole that, "Hey, how can you marry the oldest one?" But you can't say, "I don't keep my word." Keeping your word is very, very important. So when it comes to keeping your word, the only way Yaakov could have been obligated not to keep his word if it would go against the Torah. But the Torah then he was taking on as a voluntarily thing. So since the only reason why he was keeping the Torah was voluntarily, it was a nice gift, he couldn't go ahead and override not keeping his word. So the answer to the question, how far do you have to go to keep your word? So you see clearly from the story with Yaakov. A person has to keep his word, whatever it takes, providing it's going against the Torah. But if it's something that you took upon yourself, or you're not comfortable with it, or you're not happy about something, there's no excuse. A person must keep his word to any extent, besides, obviously, if it's not moral, ethical, or going against the Torah. This week's Torah lesson is in memory of Baruch ben Aryeh Leib and Shlomo Ben Yosef. May their souls be elevated for the Torah that we're studying in their memory. Thanks so much for joining us for our weekly Torah lesson. For more information on Chabad, please see our website.